Hey Void, how you doing? So, continuing on my nightmare binge, Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Now, I always pretty much 3, 4, and 5 kind of work as a trilogy here, but 5 is where the series really drops off. And while 4 isn't as good as 3, it, for me, works on quite a few levels, actually. Now, this one picks up right pretty much where number 3 left off, probably about a year later, as, well, the movie came out about a year later, 1988. And, Freddy is back. Kristen has been having some Freddy-esque dreams, and she's sure he's about to return, and tries to warn both Joey and Kincaid, who don't believe her, until it's too late. The man himself is back and working on taking out the remaining Elm Street kids, getting it down to just Kristen. And Kristen's ability to call people into dreams triggers calling in Alice, who she then proceeds to pass her power on, also essentially establishing a link with Freddy in the meantime. So, like, whenever Freddy kills someone, Alice gets their power while Freddy gets their soul. So, setting her up to slowly become more powerful as she gains the talents of the people who Freddy's been killing. While Freddy, meanwhile, begins in her dreams, encouraging her to pull more people in so he can have access to more souls. Before she has enough and takes the fight to Freddy. So there's a lot that's kind of working here, and a few things that weren't working so well. Now, the deaths in this movie are some of the more inventive in the Nightmare series. 3 really started off going more fantastical. This one is where they start getting silly and campy, but in still a fun and very creative way. The Roach Motel death in particular still... that's an experience. A few things that I normally gripe about in horror movies is when they have a surviving group only to immediately kill them off the next one. I complained about that in Alien 3 very hard, and I also griped about that in Friday the 13th Part 2. This one, I will give a bit more of a pass to. Because, yes, they did survive the other one, but they aren't killed off the in-between movies, like Newt. And they last more than 5 minutes. Unlike, what's that? It's not Ginny. Ginny's number, Friday the 13th Part 2. Was it Alice? Too many Alice's. I could be wrong. Anyway, because I actually timed it just out of curiosity, and the last member of the previous group of Elm Street kids from number 3 lasted 40 minutes into this one, so that's a pretty good run, almost to the halfway point. So, yeah, I will give this one a pass, because, yes, they killed them off again, but they made it, they were actually a part of this movie, and therefore, really, I think I'm not as complaining as much about it. Yeah, I was right, Alice. Okay. That's what's throwing me off. Anyway. So, Kristen's been recast, because Patricia Arquette, I guess, wanted too much money to be in this one. But, her replacement does a fine job. Not as good as Arquette, doesn't have the chemistry with Kincaid and Joey, but she does fine. And she does a decent chemistry with Alice. Now, the main thing that I have a problem with in this movie, I can go over the campiness, the one-liners, and the series starting to get more silly. I can get over the recasting because that happens. The beginning is the one that really docks points on this one. Because it's clear they had absolutely no idea how to bring Freddy back. So, he's sort of just back, but his resurrection doesn't really trigger until a dog pisses fire on his grave, and up he gets. Now, apparently that was a joke that was first given to, I think it was Carpenter, when Carpenter asked how the hell they were bringing Freddy back, and they someone just jokingly told him that, and then that's what they ended up going with, because I guess they really hadn't figured out how to do it. They start adding, like, the door mythology here that I will say the first time there are a couple times I barely paid attention to. I do remember that coming back, I think in number 6 in particular. But, where they start talking about the Door of Dreams and the Door of Nightmares, with the Dream Master, now Alice, guarding the door, guarding the light door, while Freddy would be the one guarding the dark. They only touch a little bit base, and the climax is a little odd, but it's dream logic, so I could accept how they defeat Freddy in this one. But the birth of Freddy just is very arbitrary, and when I was younger I didn't have a problem with it, but now it's like, why? So Kincaid's dog is in the dream with him and pisses fire, and that causes Freddy to get up. Sure. I think if I wanted to kind of write my own thing into it, it could be because Freddy still has all the souls, despite them putting them to rest. He still can't quite be put properly to rest because he's got too much power from as many souls as he's collected. There. And this one, well, the souls get freed, leaving Freddy much weaker. Which seems another good endpoint. Now, I do still have a soft spot for this one. I do really enjoy it. So, despite that complaint towards the beginning, I don't really have that much of a problem with this one. The music is really good. I love 80s music, though, so it's all working for this one. And the effects, all the nightmare effects usually are pretty good, or the ones that are campy don't really take you out. This one, the only thing that's really off for me was this weird robot hand that comes up and grabs the asthmatic girl, but everything else was working. Though the Freddy martial arts scene, I mean, you don't see him, he's invisible at the time, was a little unnecessary. But I actually read that they actually had a different death plan for that character, but they ran out of budget, so they came up with this instead. Okay. Well, that's really all I got on this one. For me, this one's, above all, like number 3, it's still fun. And seeing Alice slowly come into her own and get ready to go and take the fight to Freddy is satisfying. The confrontation between the Dream Warriors, in this case the Dream Master, and Freddy adds something for me to this. So, I still like this one very much, and I will give it a 7 MacGuffins. I probably would have rated it much higher if that beginning didn't have so many problems. And I will say the Kristen isn't as strong as she was when there was Patricia Arquette, but Tuesday Night isn't doing a bad job. I think that was her name, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, now that I said it, my brain starts telling me other things. Ooh, all those things I was just looking at, of course, and yeah, Tuesday Night. That's quite a name, isn't it? Night as in K-N-I-H-T. Anyway, she, I think, also does, like, the opening song for the film, which is, it's a banger, so, yeah. Alright, that's really all I got on Nightmare 4. They go downhill for the next 2. New Nightmare is its own animal, so I'll tackle that one when I get to it, but next ones are a little bit... 2 for me is an obligation watch, but I still enjoy it. 5 is kind of a groaner, and 6 is... I've only seen it like a couple times. The other ones I've seen time and time again. 5 I've seen a few times. 6 probably only twice, maybe 3 times. So, well, we'll get to it. Have a good night, Boyd.